Welcome back to Farmyard Care, where we take the everyday problems that frustrate homesteaders and turn them into healthier, smarter, self-sufficient systems. Now, think about your duck pen for a moment. Be honest with yourself. Is it a green, living space where your ducks can forage, rest, and stay healthy? Or has it slowly turned into a muddy, smelly patch of ground that never seems to dry out? And then there is the feed bill. Are you carrying home another heavy bag of commercial feed every couple of weeks, watching 20, 30, even $40 disappear each time? Most duck keepers come to accept two problems as if they are just part of raising ducks: constant mud and constant feed costs. At first, when the flock is small, buying feed may not feel like a serious expense. $20 here, another bag there, nothing too painful. But ducks are not chickens. A grown duck can easily eat 6 to 8 ounces of feed in a single day. Once you add more birds, that feed disappears fast. Before long, a 50-pound bag is gone in around 10 days, and over a full year, you can spend well over $1,000 just keeping your flock fed. And the mud is another story entirely. Ducks love water. That is simply how they are built. Their flat, webbed feet press down on the soil again and again, compacting the surface and wearing out any grass trying to grow there. Then, when water collects in low spots, ducks start dabbling and drilling. They push their bills into the wet ground, shake them through the mud, and search for insects and tiny bits of food. That natural behavior is useful in the right setting, but in a small pen, it turns puddles into craters. Once the soil is compacted and saturated, plants stop growing, air disappears from the ground, and the area becomes a smelly, unhealthy zone where bacteria and disease can build up. But here's the important part. It does not have to stay that way. The problem is not that ducks are impossible to manage. The problem is that many modern systems make us fight against their natural behavior instead of designing around it. Long before commercial feed came in plastic bags, farmers in Old England and across parts of Asia raised ducks in a very different way. They did not just put birds in bear pens and pour pellets into a feeder. They raised ducks under trees. The trees gave shade. The fruit dropped to the ground. Ducks ate the fallen fruit, hunted insects under the canopy, and their manure fed the soil and the trees. It was a living cycle: food, shelter, fertility, and cleanup all working together. That old system is what I wanted to bring back. Instead of fighting mud every season and relying completely on feed bags, I started building a tree-based duck run using a 9-tree silvopasture guild right inside the duck area. Over time, the mud problem changed. The feed bill dropped dramatically. And most importantly, the ducks became healthier, calmer, and more active because they were living in a space that actually worked with their instincts. So, if you are tired of the mud, tired of the smell, and tired of watching your feed money disappear, this may completely change the way you look at your duck pen. Get comfortable, because I am going to show you the 9 trees that can turn a struggling duck run into a productive, living homestead system. Part 1. The mulberry tree. The summer feed factory. Tree number 1, and in my experience, the true champion of a productive duck pen is the mulberry tree, or Morris. I will be honest with you. Before I saw it working in a real duck system, I underestimated this tree. But once you watch ducks feeding under a mature mulberry, you understand why farmers relied on it for generations. In many traditional duck and poultry systems across China, mulberry trees were planted near ponds and wet areas so the ripe berries could fall naturally where the birds could reach them. During the fruiting season, the tree became a living feeder. What makes mulberry so valuable is that it solves more than one problem at the same time. It grows fast, builds a strong canopy, and uses a lot of nutrients from the soil. That matters in a duck pen because duck manure is rich in nitrogen and phosphorus. A mulberry can help absorb that excess fertility and turn it into shade, leaves, and fruit. But the real power is the yield. A mature mulberry tree can drop around 60 to 100 pounds of berries in one season. Even better, it does not usually dump everything in one short burst. Mulberries can fruit over a long window of 6 to 8 weeks. Think about what that means. For nearly 2 months in hot summer weather, your ducks can have fresh, nutrient-dense food dropping to the ground every day. No chopping, no cooking, no processing. They simply walk over and eat. Ducks will also browse the tender leaves, which adds even more variety to their diet. When you plant a mulberry in the right spot, you are not just planting a tree. You are planting a summer feed factory. Part 2. The basketry willow, the ultimate mud killer. If the mulberry helps attack your feed bill, tree number 2 helps attack the mud. This is the basketry willow, or Salix viminalis. Every duck keeper knows that one corner of the pen that never seems to dry. It stays wet after rain, turns sour underfoot, and slowly becomes the place you hate stepping into. That is exactly where willow can be useful. Willows act like living biological pumps. Through transpiration, a mature willow can pull a tremendous amount of water from the soil every day, often estimated at 50 to 100 gallons under the right conditions. That is why willow has been used for generations in wet ground, drainage areas, and ditch lines. Its roots help draw moisture out of soggy soil, making the area around it firmer and more usable. In a duck pen, that can mean the difference between a permanent swamp and ground that finally starts to recover. For ducks, willow also provides living shelter and edible leaves. It creates a softer, cooler area where birds can rest, forage, and feel protected. Another advantage is that willow handles cutting very well. You can pollard or coppice it by cutting branches around 3 to 4 feet high, keeping fresh growth above the duck's main browsing zone. Over time, that gives you a steady supply of woody material for simple farm uses, basketry, or even small firewood. Part 3. The elderberry, the natural insect trap. Now let's talk about one of the most expensive parts of duck nutrition, protein. Commercial feed depends heavily on protein sources, but a good farm system should also know how to grow protein naturally. Tree number 3 is the elderberry, or Sambucus canadensis. Many homesteaders think of elderberry only as a medicinal or fruiting shrub, but in a duck system, it deserves much more attention. Elderberry grows quickly as an understory plant, and it can handle the damp, nutrient-rich conditions often found near duck areas. Where other plants may struggle with wet soil and heavy fertility, elderberry can settle in and grow strongly. In autumn, elderberry can drop vitamin-rich berries that ducks may eat, but the bigger benefit is what happens when it flowers. Elderberry blooms attract a large number of insects, including flies, beetles, moths, larvae, and other small creatures. And for ducks, insects are not pests. They are moving protein. A good elderberry planting turns part of your duck pen into a natural insect hunting zone. Ducks will patrol under the branches, picking through leaf litter and catching bugs throughout the day. That kind of activity keeps them busy, supports natural behavior, and helps replace part of what people usually pay for in a feed bag. In simple terms, elderberry works like a living insect trap that turns flowers into protein for your flock. Part 4. The hazelnut, the mid-story sanctuary. Have you ever watched ducks suddenly freeze and look up at the sky? That is not random behavior. Ducks are prey animals, and overhead danger is one of the things they are built to fear. Hawks, eagles, and other aerial predators make open ground stressful for them. If your duck pen is nothing but a bare, muddy square, your flock may be living with constant pressure. That is where tree number 4 comes in, the hazelnut, or Corylus avellana. Hazelnut is not only about food, it is about structure, shelter, and comfort. Because it grows as a dense, multi-stemmed shrub or small tree, it creates a mid-story layer between the ground and the tall canopy. That layer is incredibly valuable in a duck pen. It gives ducks a protected place to move, rest, preen, and lay eggs with less fear from above. Under hazelnut branches, ducks feel more hidden and secure. And when animals feel secure, they behave better. They forage more naturally, rest more deeply, and experience less stress. On top of that, hazelnut contributes leaves, organic matter, and mineral-rich nuts to the floor of the pen, helping build the living layer of the system over time. Just remember one important management point. Young hazelnuts need protection. Use a permanent ring of bricks or stones around the base while the saplings establish, because ducks love digging in soft soil. If you do not protect the roots early, Your flock may damage the plant before it ever has a chance to become the sanctuary you planted it to be. Part 5. The plum tree, the sweet mid-canopy treat. Now let's return to the fruit producers with tree number 5, the plum tree or Prunus domestica. In any healthy farm system, diversity is what keeps everything balanced. You do not want every source of natural feed arriving in one short window and then disappearing for the rest of the year. That is why plums are so useful in a duck pen. They fill the mid-canopy layer and provide a fruit drop that ducks usually find very easy to enjoy. When a ripe plum falls from the branch and lands on the soft ground, it often splits open. That is exactly when ducks go after it. The sweet flesh gives them quick energy, moisture, and variety in their diet. During the peak of summer, that kind of windfall fruit can help reduce the amount of purchased feed you need while still keeping your flock active, satisfied, and well-nourished. A plum tree is not just there to look beautiful. In the right duck run, it becomes a seasonal feeding station that works quietly every year. Part 6. The peach tree. Fast growth with a warning. Tree number 6 is the peach tree, or Prunus persica. But I want you to listen carefully here, because a good homesteader does not only talk about the benefits, we also have to understand the risks. Peach trees can be excellent in a duck orchard because they grow quickly, build shade faster than many slower fruit trees, and produce a valuable seasonal fruit drop. For a young system that needs canopy, beauty, and summer food, peach can be very tempting. But there is an important warning. Peach leaves contain cyanogenic glycosides, including a compound called amygdalin. If ducks eat too many fallen peach leaves, these compounds can release hydrogen cyanide, also known as prussic acid, inside the digestive system. In serious cases, that can lead to acute respiratory failure. So why even consider planting peach? Because once the tree is mature and well managed, the fruit production can be impressive. The key word is management. Young peach trees should be wrapped, protected, and fenced off so ducks cannot damage the bark or disturb the roots. And when autumn leaf drop begins, you need to monitor the pen and make sure your ducks are not eating fallen leaves as a snack. A peach tree can give fast shade and excellent fruit, but it is not a plant you ignore after planting. It belongs in the hands of someone willing to observe, protect, and manage it responsibly. Part 7. The pear tree, the deep-rooted anchor. Next is tree number 7, the pear tree, or Pyrus communis. In a closed-loop duct system, every tree should have a job. Some plants spread their roots near the surface. Some build low shelter. Some feed insects. The pear tree plays a different role. It becomes a strong, deep-rooted anchor in the system. Pear roots can reach down beyond the compacted upper layer of soil, searching for deeper moisture and minerals that shallow-rooted plants may never access. That matters in a duck pen because the surface often becomes heavy, wet, and compressed. A tree with deeper roots helps connect the system to a larger soil profile instead of relying only on the damaged top layer. Pears are also hardy, long-lived, and capable of producing heavy windfall fruit later in the season. When the summer berries are finished and some of the earlier fruit trees have slowed down, pear can step in with crisp, hydrating fruit that ducks will happily forage from the ground. Because of its deeper rooting habit, pear also helps stabilize the soil and works well alongside water-loving trees like willow. Together, they support better drainage, better structure, and less erosion. In a duck orchard, pear is not just a fruit tree. It is one of the trees that helps hold the whole system together. Part 8. The apple tree, the classic calorie source. No homestead orchard feels complete without tree number 8, the apple tree, or Malus domestica. Apple trees are one of the classic choices for a duck pen because they can provide strong canopy shade once established. And shade is not just about making the pen look pleasant. In livestock and poultry care, shade has real value. Ducks that are overheated often eat less, stress more, become more vulnerable to illness, and may lay fewer eggs during hot weather. A deep, cool canopy can help protect your flock during the hardest part of summer. In many systems, reducing heat stress can support better comfort, stronger daily behavior, and improved egg production. That means an apple tree is not simply decoration. It can directly affect the health and performance of the flock. Then comes the fruit. Apple trees can produce a generous windfall crop. Just like plums and pears, when apples fall, soften, and begin to break down, ducks can eat the carbohydrate-rich flesh. That gives them a natural calorie source at the time of year when the orchard is becoming full and productive. Picture walking into your duck pen on a cool September morning. The air is fresh, the ground is no longer a sour mud pit, and your ducks are working under the apple canopy, eating fallen fruit from the living floor of the pen. That is the kind of system many homesteaders dream about, and with planning, patience, and protection for young trees, it is completely possible. Part 9. The Linden Tree, the robust salad bar. Finally, we come to tree number 9, the quiet powerhouse of this whole permaculture guild, the linden tree, or tilia. Linden is a large, strong canopy tree, and once it is established, it is one of those trees that can handle a lot of pressure. But what makes it especially valuable in a duck pen is not only its size or shade, it is the foliage. Linden leaves and flowers are very palatable, and for ducks, that means fresh green material right inside the run. When leaves fall naturally, or when lower branches hang within reach, ducks will eagerly nibble at the tender greens. That gives them something commercial grain can never fully provide: variety, fiber, vitamins, and the chance to browse like real foraging birds. In a good duck system, feed is not only about calories, it is about diversity. But during the early years, protect your linden carefully. Keep a strong wire cage around the trunk, because ducks can be a little too enthusiastic with plants they enjoy. Give the tree time to grow beyond their reach, and it can become one of the strongest, most useful shade and forage trees in the entire pen. THES secrets to making it work, avoid DAC deal with mistakes. Now you have the full list of 9 powerful trees for a self-sufficient duck pen. But before you grab a shovel and start planting, we need to talk about how to make this system actually survive. Because here is the truth. If you plant young saplings directly into a wet duck run with no protection, your ducks can destroy them in a very short time. I have seen it happen. They will dig at the soft soil, strip bark, trample roots, and turn a good idea into a dead tree before it ever gets started. Rule number 1, protect every tree completely. Every transplant needs a solid barrier at the base. Use heavy stones, bricks, or concrete pavers stacked around the root zone. This keeps ducks from using their bills to excavate the damp soil around the young tree. For smaller shrubs and tender saplings, add a rigid wire cage at least 2 to 3 feet tall and keep it there until the branches grow above the duck's normal reach. Rule number 2, build a biological sponge. A duck pen should not be left as bare dirt. In a semi-forested run, deep bedding is essential. Lay down a continuous layer of coarse wood chips around 6 to 8 inches deep. That wood chip layer works like a living sponge. It softens the surface under those webbed feet, reduces soil compaction, absorbs moisture, and helps buffer the strong nitrogen load from duck manure. The carbon in the wood chips ties up excess nitrogen and lets it compost gradually, turning waste into fertility for the trees instead of burning young roots or creating sour, unhealthy mud. Rule number 3, keep dangerous materials out. Be very careful about what you bring in as mulch or bedding. Never use coffee grounds in a duck pen. Ducks constantly dig and sift through bedding for insects, and fine coffee grounds can stick to their bills or get mixed into what they eat. That can cause accidental ingestion, digestive irritation, and serious heart-related problems. Also make sure your wood chips do not contain toxic plants like poison ivy and avoid material full of sharp thorns. A duck's webbed foot is delicate. One puncture can become an infection, and chronic foot infections like bumblefoot can become painful, stubborn, and even life-threatening if ignored. Rule number 4, manage the water. Even if you plant thirsty trees like willow, you still have to control the drinking area. Ducks splash water everywhere. That is simply part of keeping ducks. The mistake is letting that water soak directly into the walking surface every day. A better solution is to build a water porch, an elevated drainage platform made from rot-resistant framing, covered with strong hardware cloth or plastic drainage panels. Place the waterers on top. When ducks splash, the water drains through the surface into a gravel sump below, keeping the main walking area drier, cleaner, and easier to manage. When these rules work together, you are not just planting trees. You are building a nutrient cycle. The manure from your ducks feeds the soil. The tree roots take up nutrients. The deep wood chips support microbes that break down waste and help process excess nitrogen. Instead of mud, smell, and disease pressure, you begin creating a living system where every part has a job. Your invitation TOA, Beater Homestead. Now imagine your duck pen 3 years from today. The sour mud is gone. In its place, there is a soft, dark, living floor made from decomposed wood chips, leaf litter, and rich soil. The willow and pear roots are helping pull excess water from the ground. The surface is no longer a stinking swamp. It is firm, productive, and alive. In spring, your ducks forage beneath blooming elderberry, hunting insects as they move through the shade. In the heat of summer, they rest under the apple and linden canopy, staying cooler and calmer while mulberries and plums drop sweet food to the ground. In fall, the hazelnut adds shelter and seasonal bounty, and your flock moves through the pen with less stress and more natural behavior. And the feed bill? The money that used to disappear into bag after bag of commercial feed has dropped dramatically. You are no longer depending only on a factory-made product to keep your birds alive. Your ducks now have access to a more diverse, natural diet, and that kind of variety can show up in healthier birds, stronger daily behavior, and richer-looking eggs. This is not a fantasy. It is good design. It is old farming wisdom brought back into a modern homestead. Ducks were never meant to live on bare mud with nothing but a feeder and a water tub. They do best when their environment gives them shade, forage, insects, shelter, and a living floor beneath their feet. You do not have to accept a barren mud pit as the price of raising ducks. With patience, tree protection, deep bedding, and smart water management, you can turn that problem area into a thriving, self-sufficient ecosystem right in your own backyard. So which tree would you plant first? Would you start with the mighty mulberry to bring in summer feed? Or would you begin with basketry willow to help conquer the mud? Drop a comment below and tell me your growing zone and your plan. If this gave you a new way to think about duck keeping, hit the like button, share it with another homesteader, and subscribe to Farmyard Care. Nature already gave us the system. Our job is to observe it, respect it, and put it back to work. Until next time, keep planting, keep observing, and take care of your farmyard.